Hello, welcome to this week's lecture. My name is Dr. Monika. I will be your guest lecturer on this topic on the global extended family, identities and relatedness. I will provide you with an example from my anthropological fieldwork on Indonesian migrant women and their transnational family, women who reside here in Melbourne. And this is an important topic for myself, as I am an Indonesian migrant woman residing here in Melbourne who's also got a transnational family. The topic of this week's reading is diverse models of relatedness. I would like to point out the introduction to the reading, whereby anthropologists and sociologists document the wide variety of models that humans develop to make sense of our relatedness to each other. So anthropologists have looked at beyond the understanding of a nuclear and extended family to consider the array of extended kin relations that are significant for many people. The reading itself focuses on the ways migration produces transnational social fields to facilitate further migration and also to transform existing kinship networks into transnational families. And the reading provided 3 examples: the Caribbean, the Tongan, and the Indian transnational family. So in my guest lecture, I will provide the example from the ethnographic research on Indonesian transnational family here in Australia. Okay, my ethnographic research in Melbourne was actually funded by the Canadian Social Science and Humanities Research Council. So this was part of a larger project on Southeast Asian women, migration and family in the global era. So in this project, we wanted to look at the intersection of reproduction with migration and look at Southeast Asian women beyond looking at them as migrants of low skill. So looking at the gap between low skill migration and other forms of skill migration, as well as unpacking the static notion of the family, the nuclear family, the extended family, looking at the different transnational flows of peoples and ideas, people from mainly in Southeast Asian women who migrated to different parts of the world. So by doing that, we're looking at this global discourse. So what does it mean to be a good parent? Which means differently for an Indonesian as it is for a Philippine, and also where they migrate to. So for example, for an Australian, they would have different understandings of what it means to be a good parent. Now, in my research, what I found amongst Indonesian migrant women in Australia, particularly those living in Melbourne, is what I call intercultural mothering. So they bring in ideas of mothering from Indonesia as well as their experience mothering here in Australia. And the reason why the project itself is interested in Southeast Asian women and focus on my research in Indonesia or about Indonesian women is because Indonesian women are known to be one of the top 2 sending countries for migrant workers. But these are women who migrated to countries such as Hong Kong, Saudi Arabia, Taiwan, other parts of the world, who needed a caregiver, for example, maids and nannies, to take care of either very young children or the elderly. And Indonesia have about 4.5 million migrant workers worldwide, where 70% are women. And every year, about 119,000 domestic workers, so these are women who work as maids and nannies, leave Indonesia to work somewhere else. But that's not the situation in Melbourne, Australia, and I will explain later on why.